If you can't make your own decisions, who would you want to make them? Would you want a medical team to perform CPR on you? If you're terminally ill or so ill that you're unlikely to get better, would you want us to give you antibiotics to keep you alive if you get an infection?
Is it important for you to recognize your family or loved ones? Is it important that you be able to eat on your own, or that you live independently in your own home? Those are the kind of values that go into Advance Directive and are important to discuss with your agent.
Vermont's blueprint effort is to improve primary care practices throughout the state and to ultimately improve the communication that happens between a provider and the patients. And one of the best ways to do that is to have a patient complete an Advance Directive. The Advance Directive is a document that outlines what kind of care a person would want when they can't speak for themselves.
Advance Directives are important because doctors are programmed, the medical people are programmed to give people treatment first and ask questions later. And at some point in our life, we generally get to the point where we don't want all possible treatments. And so Advance Directives are important so that people don't have treatment that they don't want unnecessarily. People might have heard of Advance Directives by other names like a living will, terminal care document, durable power of attorney for health care. Those all mean the same thing pretty much as an Advance Directive, but that's our new name for it. Advance Directives, by any name, do basically two things. One is they name your agent, and secondly, they give that agent the information that they need in order to make decisions on your behalf.
It's very important to have your Advance Directives done. People plan for everything. They plan to get married. They plan for their education. They plan for retirement, but for some reason, they're very hesitant to plan for the end of life. When completing Advance Directive, there are many things that you need to think about. One are your personal values. What's important to you? What's not important to you? What type of medical interventions would you or would you not want if you were going through a serious illness or you had been critically injured? Start the Conversation is an initiative by the Vermont Home Health Agencies, Hospice, and VNAs, and it's in partnership with the Vermont Ethics Network. Start the Conversation is a guide that helps people really think about what they may want at end of life. It talks about the options. It's a resource manual. It has different suggestions in it, different workshops that describe a very wide range of different scenarios that could happen in your life. And it questions you. What might I want? What might I not want? What type of medical interventions would suit me and which ones would I not want? Based on your values, based on your family dynamics, based on very personal spiritual things as well.
Almost every time I meet a patient, they don't have an Advance Directive done. And oftentimes they don't know what the word Advance Directive means. They think it's a financial durable power of attorney, and they say, I'm gonna do that with my lawyer, or I already have one of those. So I just explain to them what an Advance Directive is. It's just a legal document that tells their doctor what they would and wouldn't want done. I let them know that I have one done for myself and that everybody should have one done because we never know what's gonna happen.
As a volunteer explainer, my job is to help them navigate the process. Many of them come in having read the information we have sent them, but they have many questions, and we help them with the questions, and also most of the time they make a second appointment. We meet with them and usually complete the process.
When people first enter to do this form, they're very apprehensive. It's asking very personal questions. You really have to be aware of what you want when you are ill. And so that we are more of a comfort and a caring person that helps them answer their questions or feel out the answers to their questions. And so when they leave, they feel like this great big relief because it's done, it's over with, and they're moving on.
Well, I'm a retired registered nurse, and I know these forms are very important because I've seen people in the intensive care unit and critical care unit where it was very hard for their family members to make decisions when the patient became terminally ill. The doctor would suggest something, but they weren't sure what the patient, their family member wanted.
People seem to think that they should consider an advance directive based on their age, and this should not be age-driven. This is something that anyone should do of any age, a young family, or an elderly person. It makes no difference because at any given point in time, a situation could arise that you would be unable to speak for yourself. So it's important at any age. So I think a misconception is this is age-driven. It is not.
The state of Vermont is actually encouraging physicians to have their patients complete this form, and they are training people to help complete the form. The first thing I say is, have you read the information we have sent you? And many times they will say no, they have not, or very rarely they'll come in and have part of it filled out with some questions to go over with us. They are sometimes very emotional. They will mention that their children don't agree with certain things that they have indicated in the Advance Directive, such as no resuscitation, no feeding tube.
The first thing I do when I meet with people is actually I just talk to them. I find out about them, I find out where they live, what they've done for a living, what's important to them. And that kind of eases them into answering these questions as to what's important to them about their medical health, so that it's a very relaxed atmosphere. It's not tense, it's not anyone pushing them to do it. It's just, a conversation between two people.
I was a hospice nurse for VNA for about 1.5 years, and I was a home care nurse. And I've experienced a lot of death and sickness in my line of work. And I felt very comfortable with getting my Advance Directive done because I really want my family to know my wishes.
It's also hugely important for family members. If you think about the dynamics of 3 individuals, 2 daughters and a son in a room with their mother there, 3 people disagreeing on how they feel they should proceed with their mother's medical care. That can be devastating to a family. If it's all laid out and everyone understands, they may not all agree with it, but they will honor it.
I wanted to feel more prepared in case something ever happened to me, because I know life is short and unexpected things happen. And I wanted my daughter to feel comfortable with making decisions for me if I was very ill.
Young people especially seem reluctant to fill out advance directives. It's too remote a possibility for them to really bother with. And I can appreciate that, but I tell my young patients, yeah, but it's so easy to fill out an advance directive. And the part that young people haven't really thought about whether they'd be on a ventilator or whether they'd want tube feeds. Those things in a young person, though, are going to be pretty automatic. We're going to treat someone who's young and in a car accident very aggressively. What we really struggle with more often in a younger patient is who do they want to be that agent. So if nothing else, just selecting an agent is a real important thing to do, and you're filling out about 12 lines on the short form and you're done.
They often say to me, well, what if I'm in a car accident and am I not going to be treated? And I tell them, yes, you will be treated. Even if you come in here at 80 years old with a car accident, you will be treated.
After completing my Advance Directive, I felt more comfortable, more at peace with knowing that my family they know my wishes. They'll be able to step up and be able to talk to the doctors and let them know what I want.
2 other things to keep in mind when you are making your wishes known to your agent. One is, don't assume that your agent understands your wishes to begin with. Unless you've really spoken about them, unless you've shared them, maybe been through another person's end of life, unless you've really shared that kind of experience, your agent isn't going to understand what your wishes are. The second is, don't think that your agent or anyone else will remember what your wishes are unless you've written them down.
I brought the Start the Conversation booklet home with me as the first step to talk to my husband about it. And it was very interesting to me because I was certain I could answer every question in here based on what he would want. And I was really surprised. There were several significant points that I had no idea what my husband would have thought. I thought for sure he would not want X, Y, or Z. And when we discussed it, he said, oh, absolutely, I would want that. So that was critical information for me to have.
Basically, if you're 18 or older and understand these concepts that we're discussing, you should have an Advance Directive. Everyone thinks that there's some regulation or some rule book that states who's going to be making decisions for you if you're not able to. And the truth of the matter is, in Vermont and many states, there's no such regulation. So it's really up for grabs. Usually it is pretty clear. Maybe if you're 18 years old, just out of school, it's going to be obvious that your parents will have a say. But that's not true in all cases. And if you haven't stated who your agent is going to be, it can be anyone who cares.
You do not need to have an attorney involved in filling out this documentation. And it is a legal document without that involvement. And it's an honor document. It is registered with the state of Vermont, and no matter where you are in the United States, if something were to happen to you, it can be tapped into through this registry. So I think one of the misconceptions is that you need to have a lawyer to help you prepare this document, and that is not so. You do not need that intervention through an attorney.
If somebody asked me about my experience here at the Community Health Center filling out my Advance Directive, I would just tell them that it was a very nice experience where I came in and spoke with a volunteer in the evening hours after work. I was able to sit down with her, relax, and think about what I wanted to write down. And it was very nice, and I'm glad I got it done.
In finally completing my own, it was because I had seen so many people go through it and do it, and feeling their questions and their concerns, that I was able to answer it for myself and realize what I wanted. So I thank them for helping me.
The best time to do an Advance Directive is when you're healthy, when you're able, when you can clearly think about what you would and wouldn't want done.
It's not just elderly, it's people that are young and need to fill this out. If nothing else, designate an agent on the form. They don't have to go any further. That's the most important part.
Do it. Once you start it, it's easy.